Hey everyone, it's the Our Shawn. Welcome to an edition of Personality Assessments Done Right. We're going to be looking at personality assessments, what we're seeing out there, what's developing, and why they're good for you. So today I have Holly McIlwain joining me, and we'll be talking about really what we can use these for, what personality assessments can do, kind of the basics of what we should be tuning in on these things. The goal of this show is to help you business professionals out there that might be in situations where personality assessments might help to think about what the right ones are, what they can do for you, how they can inform you, and how they can help build the business. We love your comments, so drop them below wherever you're watching, whether you're watching our YouTube channel, watching it on LinkedIn, or if you're seeing it on Facebook or wherever. Drop your comments. We'd love to hear from you. For those of you who don't know me as well, I'm the Our Shawn. I'm a corporate lawyer by training. I help people with ownership and control of their business. That's partnership agreements, mergers, capital raises, contract negotiations, and I also do a lot of work on the future of business, which is where this comes in. Holly has a long background in the world of personality assessments and working with them, and we'll dive into that some as we get into some details. I always remind people we don't do investment advice or legal advice on the show. For those items, contact your own advisors. With that, Holly, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am so thrilled to be with you and all of your friends.
Yep. Okay, yeah, I'm glad you're here as well. Thanks for joining us. Why don't you talk a little bit about the basics of the personality assessments, what they mean to you, and how you've used them in business.
Sure. So, there's always like a personality assessment that's all the rave, whether it's the Myers-Briggs or the VIA or the Gallup Strengths Finder or the DISC or any number of the one that, everyone is using or people are talking about. Well, I've seen almost all of them. I've used almost all of them. And I thought, this is really neat. It's great to get to know yourself. But what do you do with it? There's a lot of navel gazing that can happen in the world of assessments if it's not appropriately targeted towards an action or some, awareness that allows us to engage with each other better. So I just want to kind of just put that out there. And so I find that there's a couple of ways that assessments are best used. One is to really get some self-awareness, right? Because leaders need to know who they are so that they can lead others. The second is to have a development plan for yourself or for someone else in your business. And three is to check your blind spots. Shawn, have you ever just, driven down the road thinking that everything's fine and not realize that your mirrors were all messed up until you needed to parallel park?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, me too. And that's where I feel like assessments can be really helpful for business leaders. And in my work, I do a lot of work in the talent acquisition space. Incredible tool to use in talent acquisition. But I see it misused a lot as well. And I really, I get really worked up about that because people are different in person than they are on paper.
Right. I mean, so that's a piece of this that underlies it, right? I mean, so we can learn a lot from the paperwork, from the ideas, from what it says we're going to do, but then the reality is, we got to actually apply this in real life. We got to use it.
Yeah.
You made an interesting point about using these things the right way, and I think there's a variety of assessments out there, and they all don't have the same. They have different capabilities, right? They tell us different things. Why don't you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I'm a certified analyst for a number of different platforms. And the certification piece is a really important piece to realize because there is psychology behind these psychometric evaluations. And we want to pay attention to how that research is generated, how the research is used, and how the research is updated to keep up with the contemporary norms of our society. The way that we interact as United States, American, English-speaking people is different than the UK citizens in English speaking, and the words look different. And so I think that's a really good comparison to be thinking about when we're talking about the platforms that are giving us access to psychometric evaluations or assessments. We want to first know that where we're getting that information is accurate, and you really need to rely on a certified analyst to help you. And so we'll start with one that's really easy that a lot of people have access to because it's very inexpensive, and that is the Gallup Strengths Finder. Gallup Strengths Finder is great because for $20, you can get access to your top 5 strengths. And then what do you do with them? It's important to understand what your strengths are so that you can kind of build your life around making the most use of them. Now, Gallup also has the full 34 strengths for just, $49. You get access to all 34 of your strengths. So a lot of people will pick up their report, look at their top 5 and say, that's nice. And then go look at their bottom 6 or 7 or 3 or 2 or 1 and say, that's my weakness. But that's not true.
Yeah.
The 34 strengths are really those talent themes that we all are naturally good at something. And when we can put a name on it and understand what it is and what it means to us, then we can target some of our goals into using our strengths to accomplish them rather than, spin our wheels in other directions. So that's one that I love talking about.
Yeah, so that's a very simple one. You're talking about using that, first for managing yourself, and then it also has, I guess, an application within teams, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When teams come together and you have, the top 30, the 34 strengths of an individual meeting the 34 strengths of another individual, there's virtually like 1 in 34 million chances that they're going to line up and be the same. Mm-hmm. People are really different. And when people who are different work together, they've got to learn from that. They've got to engage with each other, and they've got to learn how to manage each other. And that's where our natural behaviors and blind spots come in. And so a lot of times I suggest that if you're going to use Strengths Finder and understand your strengths and try to work together as a team, you should probably look at the DISC as well. And the DISC is just another one of those platforms that has a really unique usage, a very misunderstood usage in a lot of situations, and one that you really need someone who understands the psychology behind in order to be effective.
Right. So now you're talking about layering 2 different assessments together and using them in a blended way. And I know a lot of people do that. How do you pick which ones to blend together and why you blend them together?
Yeah, I think realistically, it depends on the goals. What are you trying to do? If you are trying to create a cohesive team, then the DISC is great because it helps someone. And for those of you who aren't familiar with DISC, it's a great, really easy to access, really easy to observe, and you can get it kind of anywhere. Some of it free, some of it for price, but it measures a person's observable behaviors. The D is for dominance, and the I is for influence. The S is for steadiness, and the C is for compliance. And I always say the easy way to tell what someone's DISC is because it is observable, is the questions they ask. People who have a strong C, compliance, are going to ask questions like why all the time because they really want to understand something and make sure that it is accurate before they move forward. Someone who, Shawn, I believe you're a high C as an attorney. You've got some high C in you as well.
I'm actually more of a D than anything when I run the DISC program. So
yes, you are. So I'm a D too. Can you tell? Yes. So when you engage with someone who's a D, you know that they're a D because they are not afraid to take some control. They're not afraid to make their voices heard. That dominance comes out. And Ds are really driven by end results. And so they're going to say when. The question they're going to ask is when, and the answer they want to hear is right now. A person who is at high I is also outgoing, and they're going to let themselves be known because they're influencing. They're sunshiny yellow. They're the people who, when they're asking a question, it's going to be related to who's at the party, who's in the meeting, who's on the team, who's in the committee, who. And then the person on the team that I feel like is overlooked all too often is the S, steadiness person. Right. And steadiness is so important on teams because they're the ones that are asking how. How do we move forward? How do we make things work? How do we keep everyone involved? How do we, not forget something? And so teams that are thinking about doing something on the leadership development or team cohesion side really should start with DISC. Mm-hmm. And when they start with DISC and they understand the way people show up, then I really do think that the next layer is naturally Strengths Finder. Right. Because it's not just enough to show up anymore. We have to be engaged. And Gallup's done a lot of research about engaged employees and the retention that comes from that.
Yes.
Well, when you're using your strengths and you're with people who kind of get you and who want to understand you, you're a lot more likely to enjoy your work.
Yeah, I mean, let's zoom in on that. I mean, the Gallup surveys, every time they come back, they show the engagement rates are very, very weak. The vast majority of employees are not engaged. So I think you're talking about making a more successful workplace, a more successful environment by actually getting people engaged.
Oh my gosh, yes. And there's a recent State of the American Worker that came out last year that looks at this. Gallup did some research on the other side of it with some of their long-term clients. And Stryker is a massive company that has a 10-year experience and relationship with Gallup. They have enjoyed massive success. Mm-hmm. And they attribute it in a large part to the relationship that their employees have with their work. They enjoy their work. They enjoy the people they work with. They've been engaged through coaching experiences, through using their strengths, and through having that constant language as part of their conversations. Using your strengths and being good at your job. Who doesn't want to come to work when they're good at their job?
Right. Well, it's fun, right? It becomes fun if you're part of something bigger. And I think that's the biggest problem, right? Most people are like, I don't want to go to work because I don't feel engaged. I don't feel part of something.
Yep.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
So you can really change your culture potentially by using a personality assessment correctly.
Yeah. And, there's one that I have recently learned about that shows up on 2 different platforms. And it's the why. When you think about what we do, it's not enough to just go to work anymore. We have to be motivated by something. The why has to trigger. Simon Sinek has that, the great video about your why. Well, he points out and makes it really interesting and easy to remember that there's a part of the brain that is at the deepest level that doesn't respond to language, but responds to emotion. Mm-hmm. And that is our driving force. The part of our brain that gets us going and makes us excited about things. Sometimes we have a hard time putting words to that. And so I've used 2 different assessment tools to help explain that and reveal that to people. And one of them is the M-Core. It's the motivational core. And the other, the motivational core, M-Core assessment, is a very objective conversation where the assessment is based on the language a person uses to describe the things that they were good at and enjoyed doing. Well, I'm a really high D. So it's never resonated with me as a high D to spend time in that assessment. And I've gotten my assessment results back and they were accurate, but I was frustrated because I just feel like I don't have enough time for that. Right. So I've used a very subjective tool from a company called TTI that gives me the driving forces, which asks a series of questions and a psychometric evaluation that allow me to get those results. And it's based on the science and psychology of Dr. Edward Spranger. And what I've discovered is that the motivational core of an individual, those driving forces, are absolutely critical and tied in to longevity and consistency and excitement about work. Yep. When we're constantly in the wrong fit, in the wrong place, not having our needs met and not being motivated to continue, it's really, really hard to be engaged and to stay with something.
Yes, I think absolutely right. I mean, if you're doing something you're not interested in, I mean, how many of us have had to study a subject in school or jump into some project where we really just don't care, right? Mm-hmm. And it's hard. Let's talk a little bit about the team environment of this. So we've kind of alluded to teams. We've talked about the fact that you want to blend this together. How do you blend the right styles within a team, and how do you know that you're getting the right blend?
Wow, that is a massively loaded question. I can say this, that there is no well-rounded leader. There's only a well-rounded team. Okay. So if everyone on the team kind of looks the same, acts the same, looks at problems the same way, mm-hmm. as a team, there's likely to be some blind spots that show up.
Yeah.
So I guess, diversity is something that would be really important to have on a team. And what I have found with some of the groups that I've worked with, when they are really committed to being a better team, and doing the work, and they discover through these assessments that they lean heavily in a particular area, but they lack, there's some decisions that have to be made. And so I'll give you an example. I was part of an organization that had a lot of people who were S's, steady people, and I's, people. And that's a great service-based kind of profile to have. You want people who are going to do the work, and you want people who are going to like people. But when it came time to executing the ideas, you really need someone who's got some D qualities to be able to do it. And you really need someone who's got some C qualities to be able to make sure you do it right. So I'm always the high D in the room. And I was part of this team, and there were a couple interesting things. One, I was very young. Two, I was female in a very male-oriented workplace.
Yep.
And the team had to make some decisions about how they would leverage my strengths. Okay. I have on the Strengths Finder a lot of executing. I'm an activator, I'm an achiever, and I'm a strategic person in my top 5. And I'm a D. So when you're in an environment where you see that there's something you don't have, it takes a lot of courage to say, okay, this is what we need, and we're gonna defer in certain cases to your leadership and ask you to pull us along. In other cases, when there's a great blend, there's an interesting component of figuring out how to use that blend to maximize outcomes. So I'd say a layer on all of this becomes strategic planning. What are you really about?
Yeah. What is your organization, right? And I think, let's take it to that level, right? I mean, the personality assessments can also, we talked a little bit about culture and fit. Now we're talking about what does your teamwork look like? But a big piece of this is what is your overall team mission goal, right? I mean, how does it fit into the broad vision? And I guess for some organizations, they'll be using personality assessments to see whether people fit the overall mission of the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, we're kind of getting into that hiring piece. If the organization is looking to use an assessment to make a decision about hiring, they have to be really careful how they do that. Because again, it only tells part of the story. The way that a person uses that is different. These assessments, they don't measure, the ones that we're talking about right here, they don't measure morality or ethics. They don't measure personal values, and they don't measure intelligence. And those 3 things can dramatically impact the way that the strengths or the behaviors or the driving forces show up. Yes. I always say that your values trump your behavior every day of the week. Right. So you can really shift your behavior to accommodate or meet or show up for the person in front of you if you desire to do so, and you have the capability, the skill, or the muscle to do it. So in hiring decisions, you really do need someone who understands the nuances of the assessments. Yep. and can ask and recommend the right questions to dig into the individual. What I love doing is taking a couple of candidates and the hiring manager, the person that they will directly report to. And I love putting together a comprehensive look of all of these different assessments in line with the team or that responsible hiring person, because you're looking for ways that people can grow together and make the business stronger. And it's really hard to do that on your own if your area of expertise is finance or communications. It's really hard to think in this way if that's not your subject matter expertise.
Right. So I mean, that brings a lot of great points up and how it can be used. I think that just gives people a wonderful overview. I know we're going to have you come back again here in the future, Holly. In the meantime, why don't you tell folks a little bit about what you're doing and how they can get a hold of you if they're interested in following up more on some of these details that we covered today?
Sure. So there's a lot of things. I just joined up with a really awesome company called Winner Partners, based
Okay.
out of Tampa, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida. So you can check us out at winnerpartners.net or email me at holly@winnerpartners.net.
Okay.
You can follow me on any of the social media networks. Just look up Holly McIlwain. If you are really trendy and get excited about the things of the moment, you can follow me on Instagram. That's a really good look into my life because I'm
Yep.
Mama Mac knows a lot about that.
Yep.
Always please connect with me on LinkedIn. I really love to talk about these assessment tools and the way that they work. And then one final thing, if you think I'm a kook and you want to verify that I actually know what I'm talking about, look me up on the Gallup website. I am a certified coach, and you can learn a little bit more about how to connect with me about coaching.
Fantastic, folks. All right, great. Drop your comments below wherever you're watching, whether it's LinkedIn, Personality Assessments Done Right, YouTube channel, or personalityassessmentsdoneright.com. Take a moment, folks, pat yourself on the back for doing the hard work, for thinking about these things, for making your business better. Holly, I want to thank you for joining us. And I'd love you all to go check out Personality Assessments Done Right, see our past episodes, see our upcoming episodes, and you can also there subscribe for our email list. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Holly will be back again soon to bring us some more great insights. Talk to you all
Take
soon.
care.